I think it's important to know that there are a lot of different levels of the children's march. There were children who were actually shot, hit with fire hoses, and bitten by dogs, and etc. I walked more days than I can count down to that place with groups of us. And for whatever reason, you ended up either being on a perimeter or you stopped and says, "Well, I'm going to wait here. Well, I'm going on further." What your friends would say. So people, or they'll say, "Well, I'm going inside the church," because they would let kids assemble in large enough numbers inside 16th Street Baptist Church, and then they would bring them out through the side door and carry them over to the park. And they kept replenishing that supply line. So it was just all these different dynamics. So I wasn't really marching down. I didn't do that. And a couple times, like one particular time, I was going. My friend Stanley Wallace and I, who lived on my block, we were best friends. We were going, and my mother stopped us and asked where we were going. And we told her, and she says, "I said, we're going to march." She said, "No, you're not." I said, "Mom, we got to march." She says, "You're not marching down there." And I said, "Mom, we have to do something. We can't change this system if we sit back." I'm going through my whole little militant speech, and she's like, "When Martin Luther King lets his kids go march, you can go." I didn't understand it at the time because I processed it differently. It's just her just being like, just hating basically on the movement. But as I grew older, I understood that she, as a parent and as an adult and a steward of all these young people whose lives she touched, in addition to her own, it was important because we were so young, we were trivializing the value of our life. We didn't realize that we were putting, it was fun, it was exciting, because we're talking about kids that were ranging in age from 9 to 14, 15 going down there to march. So it was exciting, it's this crowd, and so she was, that in her own way, and as limited as she was capable of doing, was trying to send a message. Be clear that this is a valuable life that you're going, it's a good cause and it's the right cause, but don't lessen the value of the lives that are being done. So she was able to do that. So those are the kind of things that we often glamorize and romanticize the grainy black and white footage when we see that and see the kids clapping hands and marching and doing their things or whatever. But there's a deeper level of the value of human life that's lost. So from that moment on, I started to really have a different kind of perspective because, quite frankly, my even attraction at that age to go down to march had more to do with the fascination of how it looked like fun to be, getting squirted by a fire hose, not realizing that's 500 pounds of pressure per square inch. You fracture ribs and, those kind of break bones when you hit kids with that kind of force water. Or to see a dog ripping, the flesh off of some little kid's thigh. It's a dichotomy because there's some fascination about it for a person at that young age trying to do something like that. And then there's also a sense of defiance that was instilled in us because even in this segregated environment or whatever, none of us ever felt that we were less than or that we weren't as good as, or none of that ever permeated who we were. So when those kids got down there, it kind of like tapped into that part of who they were. So that's why you see that defiance and them like, we're not gonna, take it no more, and we're marching. And so it's a lot of different kinds of emotions involved. It's the exhilarating stuff that makes a little kid go to the state fair and want to get on the roller coaster and be scared to death while you're riding it, but you still want to do it. And then there's also something in your parents that say, listen, if somebody tries to take your lunch money, you tell them no. So there's this defiance, all these dual competing emotions that are going on, and that's what continued to fuel that children's movement.